Hello all, welcome to my channel. Let us proceed with the study of enzymes in today's video lecture. In the previous lecture, we have looked into the chemical nature of enzymes, their properties and their nomenclature and classification. In this lecture, we will be looking into the theories of substrate binding, the mechanism of enzyme action and the different factors that affect the enzyme action or the enzyme kinetics. When we talk about the substrate and enzyme binding, there have been several theories, but the two most popular theories or the two most popular binding models are the lock and key model and the induced fit theory. We know that when the enzyme binds to the substrate, it forms an intermediate enzyme substrate complex. And this enzyme substrate complex is then converted into enzyme product complex, after which we get our enzyme back and the product that is formed from the end of the reaction. So for this enzyme and substrate to bind or for the formation of the enzyme substrate complex, there are two different theories that explain how the substrate can bind to a particular enzyme. Let us look into each of these theories. Now for every enzyme catalyzed reaction, this was the first theory that was proposed, that is the lock and key model, and this was proposed by Emil Fischer in the year 1894. This theory states that the substrate and the active site of the enzyme, active site is the site on the enzyme or the region on the enzyme to which the substrate comes and binds. So according to this theory, the substrate and the active site are thought to fit together like a key into the lock. So we have the active site, which is the region that is to which the substrate comes and binds, and this is the substrate. Both of them fit with each other in a perfect sense like a key and a lock. That is why this model or this theory is known as the lock and key model or the lock and key theory. Now, this means to say that the enzyme has to be rigid or its shape has to precisely fit that of the substrate so that the correct substrate can come and bind specifically and can then continue the reaction. This is the lock and key model. So as you can see here, the enzyme is binding to the substrate and we now have an enzyme substrate complex. But this model or this theory had many negative impact as well, or there were a lot of detrimental effects to this theory because we do have certain enzymes that can bind to more than one substrate. So in this regard, a new model or a new theory was proposed, that is the induced fit theory. It was proposed by Daniel Koshland in the year 1958. According to this theory, the binding of the substrate will induce a conformational change in the active site of the enzyme. So the active site is shaped differently initially, but when the substrate comes and binds to the enzyme, the active site will undergo a conformational change or it will undergo a change in its structure, due to which it is now able to be complementary and it is now able to fit the substrate into it. So the active site is now undergoing a conformational change such that the substrate can perfectly fit into it. Here, the conformational change is being induced due to the binding of the substrate so that the substrate can be fit into it. Hence, this theory is called as the induced fit theory. So here the enzyme active site is forming a complementary shape to that of the substrate after the binding. These are the two theories that explain how a substrate comes and binds to an enzyme. But when an enzyme does bind to a substrate, what exactly does the enzyme do, or what is the role of the enzyme, what is its mechanism? We have been studying from all our previous classes that it increases the rate of the reaction or it is making the reaction go faster. How exactly does it do this is what we will be seeing now. So when we talk about the mechanism of enzyme action, if I need to plot it on a graph, if I need to plot the reaction progress on a graph, the reaction progress will be shown on the x-axis and on the y-axis I have the free energy of the reaction. Now, every reactant and product will have a certain free energy. There will be a certain free energy for any reactant and any product. Now, the reactant and the product have different free energies, which means to say the reactant will need a particular energy or it has to cross a certain energy barrier before it can form the product. Now, if this were not the case, then we would have all the compounds around us, within us, getting continuously converted into product. If this barrier were not to be there, every substance would continuously form some or the other product. To avoid this kind of instability, we have this process in place wherein every reactant has to undergo or has to cross this sort of a mountain or an energy barrier, and then only it can form the product. So under all the biologically relevant conditions, we have all reactions that are uncatalyzed, that is, which don't have an enzyme. They are very slow. And chemical reactions which take place when molecules, we know that when there is molecule of higher kinetic energy, that will change into a substance with the that has a lower kinetic energy. So all the chemical reactions have an energy barrier which is separating this kind of reactants and products. This energy barrier which the reactants have to cross to form the product is called as the activation energy. Now, if it is an uncatalyzed reaction, the energy difference or the activation energy is very high. As you can see, that is being represented by the purple line here. The activation energy of an uncatalyzed reaction is very high, which means the reactants need more energy to form the product. Whereas in the presence of an enzyme, there is the activation energy has been reduced considerably, and the reaction can be proceeded rapidly because there is now an alternate reaction pathway. So the intermediate that is being formed is formed at the same point. It is the same intermediate, the same product. It's just that in case of a catalyzed reaction or an enzyme catalyzed reaction, the activation energy barrier is much lesser, so more number of reactants are able to form the products very quickly. Whereas if it is an uncatalyzed reaction, only a small number of molecules have enough energy to cross this barrier and form the product. That is why the enzymes, we say that an enzyme catalyzed reaction is very quick, or it proceeds at a rapid rate because more number of reactants are able to cross the smaller energy barrier and form the product. So in the enzyme, if the enzyme is absent, then only a small fraction of the total number of molecules will possess the energy, and they will be able to go to this intermediate state or transition state and form the products. This is the mechanism of enzyme action. So we know that every enzyme is lowering its activation energy. Enzyme is lowering the activation energy of the reaction. Now, the enzymes too are being affected by several things. So, the enzyme kinetics is a branch of kinetics, or is a branch of enzymology which studies the mechanism of enzyme catalyzed reaction. We know that this is how it functions. We know this is what the enzyme does. This is the mechanism of action. But what are the different factors which affect that mechanism is what we are going to look into now. So there are a lot of factors like enzyme concentration, substrate concentration, there is pH that can affect the enzyme's action, there is temperature, if there is a certain inhibitor in the reaction mixture that can affect the rate of the reaction. So we have several molecules that can inhibit or that can activate an enzyme from functioning. Let us look into each of these factors. When we talk about the first factor, that is the concentration of enzyme, this is a linear graph, or when we need to plot it, it is very linear, or the effect is directly proportional. That is, when we plot the enzyme concentration on the x-axis and the rate of reaction on the y-axis, we see that as the concentration of the enzyme is increased, velocity of the reactants will also proportionately increase. So it's a directly proportional reaction. As we increase the enzyme concentration, we have increase in the more number of substrates are binding to the enzyme, more number of products are being formed, so the rate of the reaction also will proportionately increase. A simple one, a linear graph. When we talk about the substrate concentration, now initially when we need to check for substrate effect of the substrate concentration on the enzyme action, initially the initial velocity of the enzyme reaction with substrate is being described as a hyperbolic curve. So as you can see here, it's not a straight line, it's a curve, a hyperbolic curve. As we increase the substrate concentration, initially there is increase in the rate of the reaction, in the velocity of the enzyme catalyzed reaction. After a while, after a particular range when the substrate concentration is very high, at that point the velocity of the reaction does not increase. It comes to a standstill, or it comes to a stagnating structure, which means, or this is because initially as we increase the substrates, more number of substrates are now available to bind to the enzymes. But if we keep increasing the substrate beyond a point, there is no more free enzyme to bind to the substrate, or all the enzymes have been saturated with the substrate. When all the enzymes have been saturated with the substrate, even if you keep increasing the substrate, there is no change that will be seen because the rate of reaction is now maximum, or velocity of the reaction is maximum. All the enzymes have been saturated with the substrate. This maximum velocity is denoted as Vmax, and the S in brackets denotes the substrate concentration. So at saturating concentration of the substrate, velocity of the reaction is Vmax, and we now have a new parameter that comes here, that is Km, or Michaelis-Menten constant. So this was described by two scientists, Michaelis and Menten, and they gave this equation, that is initial velocity of the reaction V naught is equal to Vmax multiplied by the substrate concentration divided by Michaelis-Menten constant, that is Km, plus the substrate concentration. Now we know that V naught is the initial velocity of the reaction, Vmax is the maximum velocity of the reaction, or the velocity of the reaction that is at the saturating substrate concentration. Km is the substrate concentration that corresponds to half the maximum velocity. So Km is the substrate concentration that is equal to half the maximum velocity. Whenever the velocity of the reaction is half the maximum value, at that point, whatever is the substrate concentration, that is called as Km. And Km is a very important parameter in enzyme catalyzed reactions because it reflects the affinity of the enzyme for the substrate. Now, if the value of Km is low, it signifies that the substrate has a very high affinity for the enzyme, because a very low concentration of the substrate is enough to fill up the enzyme, to half saturate the enzyme. On the other hand, if the value of Km is very high, it means that it takes a very large quantity of the substrate to half saturate the enzyme, or in other words, the affinity of the substrate for the enzyme is very low. So in any reaction, if we find out the value of Km, it helps us to know what is the affinity of the enzyme to the substrate. But it is difficult to find out the exact value of Km from the hyperbolic curve. So we usually plot a double reciprocal plot, or it is called as the Lineweaver plot or Lineweaver-Burke graph, where we are using the reciprocal of substrate concentration on the x-axis and the reciprocal of the velocity of the reaction on the y-axis, and this, when we plot, we get the value of Km over here. So this double reciprocal plot, or Lineweaver-Burke plot, is what is used. This is again a form of the Michaelis-Menten equation, and this is used to find out the exact value of Km. Why do we need the exact value of Km? Because Km will tell you the affinity of an enzyme for its substrate. So this was about our second factor, that is the substrate concentration. Now moving on to the next factor, that is the effect of pH. As we can see from the graph, as we increase the pH, the rate of the enzyme will keep increasing till a point. Beyond that point, if we continue to increase the pH, we have a drop in the rate of the reaction, or the velocity of the reaction. So this peak, where we get the maximum velocity or maximum rate of reaction, that is called as the optimum pH at which the enzyme works. Below and above the optimum pH, we have decrease in the rate of reaction, because the enzyme tends to get denatured. Enzyme, being a protein, tends to get denatured. So as we can see here, in case of pH, it's a perfect bell-shaped curve. The optimum pH for every enzyme will differ. Some enzymes like pepsin, which work in the stomach acid, have an optimum pH of 2. Then we have certain enzymes which will work at a higher pH, maybe a neutral pH or even an alkaline pH. But one thing is for sure, from the optimum pH, if we tend to change, either increase or decrease the pH, the rate of the reaction will slow down. A similar graph can be seen with respect to temperature. In case of temperature, the velocity of the reaction again will keep increasing till a maximum point, that is the optimum temperature. Beyond the optimum temperature, if we increase the rate of the reaction, there is a sudden drop in the rate of the reaction. The sudden drop is there because with increase in temperature, there is extreme or very quick degradation or denaturation of the enzymatic protein. So as we increase the temperature beyond the optimum, there is a sudden denaturation in the protein structure or in the enzyme structure, due to which we see a sudden drop. So here too, apart from the optimum temperature, increase or decrease in the rate in the temperature will decrease the rate of the reaction. So there are certain enzymes which will work at an optimum temperature of 40 to 45, but we have enzymes of thermophilic bacteria which are working at higher temperatures of 100 degrees Celsius. So the optimum will vary. But whatever is the case, increase or decrease from the optimum will tend to reduce the enzyme activity, and hence the rate of reaction will be decreased. The last factor that is involved in the enzyme's action is that of the inhibitor or activator, which we will be looking into in the next video lecture. In today's lecture, we have just spoken about the enzyme kinetics. What are the different factors that affect enzyme action? What is the enzyme action? What does an enzyme do actually? And what are the different models of enzyme substrate binding? I hope you all have had a fruitful lecture here. See you in the next video lecture. Thank you all.